Hello, great people of YouTube. I just take a great shower, and I thought to myself that I will record fourth part of my vlogs to YouTube. And I have three main passions. First one is learning new languages. Second one is body training, and the third one is playing video games. And even though playing video games can be considered juvenile and not very adult, I think it's a great way to release your neuronal capacity to relax and also to learn new things. Because when you think about this, I'm a great fan of reading books. I've read many books in many different languages. For example, I've read Also sprach Zarathustra by Friedrich Nietzsche in German language, and I also have read Bellamy von Guy de Maupassant in French language. So I'm definitely a great reader, ferocious reader, but I think actually video games are even more important for me, for my brain development, than books, because I'm a great video games player since I was 6 years old. When I was 6 years old, I played my first video game, Gothic, and I really enjoy playing video games because I think it's like combination of watching a movie, reading a book, and also something that we should like consider really meaningfully right now, because video games give you unique capacity, unique occasion, opportunity, situation, scenario to make your own decisions. You can watch this, especially in role-playing games, like for example Witcher, Skyrim, Gothic, etc. So you are immersed in the virtual reality, like for example when you're reading a book or watching a movie, but actually you need to be constantly focused, because when you're playing a video game, someone will talk to you like a fictional character, and he will ask you a question, and you need to think like, what will I answer right now? So it demands much more from your brain than reading a book or watching a movie. So I really like playing video games, and I also learned many languages thanks to playing video games. For example, I played Mass Effect, all three parts of actually four, because right now we have Mass Effect Andromeda. So I played every single part of Mass Effect in different languages. So for example, I played the first three parts of Mass Effect in German language, and I played Mass Effect Andromeda in French language. And actually, I learned German language mostly thanks to video games. Of course, like reading books improved my language. For example, reading philosophy books opened my eyes to a very vast world of knowledge. For example, like I said, I've read Also sprach Zarathustra by Friedrich Nietzsche, and it's really nice. But I enjoy playing video games even more. And right now in this vlog, I want to talk about my two favorite video games that are KotOR, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, created by BioWare. About the first part and the second part. The first part is created by BioWare, and the second one is created by Obsidian Entertainment. You may know Obsidian Entertainment to different video games, like for example Fallout New Vegas, but let's not jump to other topics. Let's focus on KotOR. It's a great game. So let's start with the first game. I was analyzing it for a very broad amount of time, because it's really a demanding game. I played it when I was, I guess, 8 years old, and I was playing it with English language as dubbing, as voiceover, and as Polish language in terms of subtitles. And it was really nice. I was really impressed by the game, and I need to say, like I already wrote this in the description, we have a spoiler alert here, because I'll tell you many things about plot of KotOR 1 and KotOR 2, because I think the main strength of KotOR games is in their plot. Because let's start with this thing, because KotOR 1 has a great plot. Think about this. When you played KotOR, you know that the plot consists of you as being a person that becomes a Jedi, and you are constantly hearing stories about someone called Darth Revan, and it's something that you might someone that you may consider legendary. Like like for example, you're reading history books and you're reading about Alexander the Great, and you never meet this person. Like you're reading, oh, Alexander the Great was really impactful to the world and you think, whoa, I will never meet him. It's you just accept this, like it's a myth, it's a legend, like it's a historical fact, but you know, not to make a digression, but you never know. Like history, like they say, history is written by the winners. So you never think about the history. It might be a fiction. You never know. Maybe Alexander the Great never existed. Of course, you have archaeological research, etc. But what? You're just reading a book. Maybe it's a fiction. So you never know. And when you're playing KotOR, you have the same situation. You're hearing constantly about Darth Revan, and you're hearing that he was a great strategical leader, and he was very legendary because he was a good Jedi. But then he went on a great war to save Republic, and he was with his great friend Malak, and they were like fighting in a different part of the world. When I was playing KotOR for the second time, I was playing it in the German language, and I really remember many of the phrases that were spoken in the German language. For example, that Darth Revan was fighting im Rand des Universums. So in German language we say this as a place that was like never explored. So they were just hearing that Darth Revan was doing those amazing things in war, that he was very intelligent, but they were thinking like, what is happening with Revan? Because he's like in a completely forbidden place, like he's somewhere far away. And when you think about this, you have the same concept in many other books, works. For example, other example of video game is Far Cry, and the example of book is The Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad. So you have this situation in which you are on your own, you are in a forbidden place, and psychology tells you the same thing. When you are in somewhere far away from humanity, and when you are like having a great challenge, you are fighting, you are seeing those natural instincts coming to your mind. For example, in Heart of the Darkness, you have this Kurz character that was sent to an island, and then he was using those people that were inhabiting the island, and he turned to a very bad person because he could not resist the temptation of overusing his power in a forbidden place that was not watched by many human eyes. And you have the same story in KotOR. So you have this Revan, he was a good Jedi, but he went to the Rand des Universums, and he turned to a bad person, to a dark Jedi, to Darth Revan. And it's really interesting because he turned to a bad person. So I need to explain the whole plot to you. He was killed by other Jedi, Bastila, and he was killed, but actually he survived. So like he was almost killed by Bastila, and then his memory is destroyed, almost. He has this amnesia, and he's like that's the beginning of the game. You are waking up, you think that you are just a normal Republican soldier, you need to run away from the collapsing ship, you need to find Bastila, and then later in the game, like actually in the half of the in the medium part of the game, you are realizing that you are constantly hearing those stories about Darth Revan, and then you realize that you are actually him. So you never have this story. I've read many books, I've watched many movies, I've met many people, and I never seen a situation like this, that you are reading about someone, like you are really inspired, you're hearing those stories, like Darth Revan is like the terror of the whole Republic, and then you realize you are actually him. And then you have this great situation, you have this great music of KotOR, and then you need to choose. Like for example, like when you're creating a character in this great game KotOR, you're making your own name. So for example, I named my character Julius Pentagast, and later in the game you need to either forge your new identity, you need to accept that, okay, I'm Julius Pentagast, and right now I do not want to recover the identity of Darth Revan, or actually I'll tell you like the whole truth. When I first played KotOR 1, when I was a young boy, I played it as a good Jedi, and later when I played it, when I was learning German language, I played it as a dark Jedi. And you might think like what's more canonical, because we'll talk about KotOR 2 later in this video. But actually, we can also like deconstruct the scheme that was used by BioWare in the creation of KotOR 1, because BioWare has like the same scheme for many of their games, but the scheme is really well thought. Because KotOR 1 consists of a great quest of looking for a star forge, like an artifact, like the place where you can create robots, and it's really like construction of the game is really easy. So like you are Revan, you are this Jedi, and you need to go to 5 different planets to recover the puzzle, the tips about Starforge. Then you go to the Starforge and you either save Darth Malak, like this friend that went with you to the Rant of Universum, and you either kill him or you forgive him and you turn him back to good side, and so on. And like when you deconstruct it as a programmer, it's really easy. So you're having this role-playing character, you go to 5 different places, you recover the Starforge, and you make a choice about Darth Malak, and that's it. But of course, like, the game is simple, but the plot is really interesting, because even though you have the simple quest of going to 5 different planets, you have different puzzles. For example, like, I really respect BioWare because I'm also a great fan of psychology. And for example, you have many psychological experiments that I learned when I was studying psychology, and there is something called cognitive psychology. So like, you have those quizzes that tests your brain capacity, and they use the same quizzes in KotOR. So actually, like, when I was, I know, 8 years old, I was playing KotOR, and it's really demanding because it's an old game, and it's really challenging. You have a demanding combat system, and also you have those logical quizzes. So for example, you are not only fighting, you are going to those different planets, and for every glimpse tip about Starforge, like your main quest, you need to solve a puzzle, a logical puzzle. And I remember like having many problems because, I was a young person, I was having 8 years old, and I could not finish KotOR. Even I almost finished this as a good Jedi. I think I finished like 80% of the game. But of course, like later on, when I was like doing other things, I was already having great success in terms of bodybuilding, in terms of working in a famous Warsaw gym. And also, like, I was just searching for like new ways to improve my brain capacity. So I thought, like, since I was learning German language, I will play KotOR, my favorite childhood game, and I will play it in German language. So it was really demanding because I was playing the game in the German language, and I was like solving the demanding cognitive logical puzzles in German language, and I finished the game. I can like tell you this right now. I finished the game, and what I'm saying right now, we'll soon have 15 minutes. So I'll end the topic right now about KotOR 1, and in the next few days, I'll create a video. Maybe I'll create a video about KotOR 2, but maybe I won't do it. We'll see. What I'm saying right now, when you're looking for a great brain challenge, you should consider playing video games like KotOR, because it's an archaic game, it's an old game. It might look ugly to some of you, but you should like accept this, and like you should go full on with this. You should try to finish KotOR, and you should think about this as a great story in Star Wars universum. I thank you for your audience, and please think about my words. Have a great day.